Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Fall Builder Academy Day 1. We are going over pre-construction and estimating. My name is Andy Nelson. I am on the product marketing team here at Houzz, and I'm with Orion Alfano, one of our client success managers. Let's take a quick look at our agenda for today before getting started. So we are going to be going over CRM, estimates, bid management, takeoffs, contracts, everyone's favorite, accounting, so invoicing and payments, our QuickBooks Online integration, and homeowner financing. And then at the end, we should have time for questions and discussions. So anything that you need, maybe just a quick refresher on a feature or further questions that you might have, we can go through that. And I will turn it over to Orion to get started.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I will go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen. So just on my Houzz Pro homepage here, as Andy mentioned, we're going to go through the CRM first. So the CRM is where we can manage any leads, any inquiries that we have before they turn into a project. You might be familiar with this leads section in Houzz. We also call it the CRM, so they're kind of interchangeable. When we click into this is where we have our entire lead list. So you can actually import leads from other platforms. You can do a bulk import. You can manually add them. If you have a Houzz hosted website and someone submits a contact inquiry on your site, it will automatically generate a lead for you. If you don't have a Houzz hosted website, you do have the contact form available. So this you can embed in your standalone website. When a homeowner fills this out, then all of the questions that they answered, their contact information, everything will be generated as a lead for you to work. Reach out to that client, send an estimate, do all of that good stuff. We'll get into the leads in just a moment. This contact form, when you click on it, it'll just bring you to this contact form page, kind of walks you through how to set it up. You just click create form, and then it will give you an embeddable link that you can put into your website. Going back to how to import the leads, a few different ways that we can do this. So from your add leads dropdown, you can manually create a new lead. You can put in client information, the name will be required, and the name of the lead is required. If you have additional details, click more lead details, and you can add this additional information. Once we click create, it will create that lead for us to then go ahead and work. The other ways we can do it is we can bulk import via a file. There is a Help Center article that walks through it, and there is a template for you to use. If you are doing a bulk import, just make sure that your column headers are exactly how they are on the template. If anything has a weird space or maybe it's not capitalized correctly, you might get an error message. But again, this Help Center article will walk through all of that. And then you can just drag and drop either an Excel or a CSV file, and then it will bulk import your leads. We now have a lead import history. So if you are bulk importing, you can see what you have imported in the past. You can access it through here. You'll also have it on the CRM on your left-hand menu. We can also import with Zapier. We do have a Zapier integration. So you can set up your Zapier integration and import any lead data. And then you can also import from an email chain. If you email the email chain to forwarding@pro.houzz.com, it will then create that lead for you with that email chain. Before I get into clicking into a lead stages, and all of the other good things, Andy, do we have any questions on importing or creating leads in Houzz?
Let's see. I don't think we have any questions yet. No, we are good.
Cool. So I will go ahead and click into a lead here. This is a bathroom remodel lead that I have created in my account. I can go in and add in the email and detail if I have that at this point in time. Tags, we can add tags just so we know this is a bathroom remodel project, or any type of internal tags that you guys have to kind of sort through different leads you can add here. And then we have our lead stages. We do have preset lead stages. However, you can now add different lead stages. I know sometimes you have your own company verbiage, or you might have the need for additional stages. So you can go ahead and click add new lead stage. We can say following up after meeting. Once you create this, click this check mark. And then you can drag it to be in whichever order that you want this to be. Click close, and now I have that custom lead stage that I can go ahead and add. This is our overview page, so we'll have all of our lead details. Again, if you do have that contact form, or if someone is submitting through your website, this would be filled out with any of the information that they have added. And then just your payment settings are here. Again, we'll get into payment settings a little bit later on in the webinar. The overview page has your quick create options, and then we also have our messages here. So I can either email or text client directly. And then let me actually add in a number. Cool, that way we can start creating a message. So I can go ahead and type my message to my client. If I can type. So you can type the message, and then you can also create templates. So if I don't want to type this message every time, I can click customize templates. Preset templates are here, but I can go ahead and create a new template and use smart text. So I don't even have to type in the client's name. This will all happen for me. So if I just say hello, and then I put in client first name, and then I can even input my company information. So if I want to put my company phone number, I want to put my Houzz profile link, any of that information I can add in here. I do have to name my template, if I can type, and then just save and select, and then it will save this template for me, but now it has been selected and added, so I can go ahead and send this to my client. Any questions on messages before we kind of review the other tools within a lead?
We don't have any questions yet. Nope.
Cool. So on the left-hand menu, you will see that you have a few of the different software features that you can use so that you can begin to work this lead prior to it becoming a project. We have notes that we can log. I can create tasks, so I can assign tasks to my team members. Maybe I need someone to follow up. I can create my 3D floor plans to share with my client on a lead. I can create a schedule. I can add any files and photos. Maybe they sent me some before photos and I just want to file them away so that we have them in one spot when we start the project. They're already there for me. And then I can do my takeoffs, my estimates, and even send contracts to this client before they become a project. These again are just going to be a quick create options. And then under the more actions, you can print the lead details. Snoozing the lead will just effectively snooze it and then remind you in whatever your time frame that you need to follow back up with this homeowner or potential client. You can archive a lead. You can always unarchive. So typically I advise against deleting. Once you delete it, it is gone forever. Our support team can't recover it. So only delete if you absolutely do not need or want that lead in your system. Archive is another option because you can always go back and reactivate the lead if needed. If this lead does turn into a project, we would click convert to project. You can again input this information. This is really just for your lead analytics and insights because you can see this on a company level. And then once you click convert, it will move this lead into a project. And then it will open up all of the project software features that we have to manage this project. Just to go back to the CRM before we move on and look at some of the software features within a project, to note on this left-hand side, these are all of our lead stages. Here is that custom lead stage that we created. So they will show up on this left-hand menu for you. This will show me any snoozed leads. And then any leads that I have archived, I can always go ahead and reactivate. If in fact, maybe the client came back, I accidentally archived it, you do have that ability here. Before we move on to estimates, do we have any questions on the CRM?
No questions so far. So if anyone does have any questions, again, just throw them in the Q&A section and we will get them answered for you.
Awesome. I'm going to go to my projects now because we will work within a project to look at some of these features. And I will go to this project that I have that is well built out so that we can look at this together. On the project, kind of similar to with the CRM, we have our menu on the left-hand side. This is sectioned off, so there's the planning features kind of within that planning phase of your project management features, and then our finance features. This project overview page is just essentially an overview of every section of the project, and then you can customize this view. So if you click customize, these 6 dots, if ever you see that anywhere in Houzz, it's just click and drag. We can rearrange the order of those items. You can toggle off certain items if you don't want them on that home page. And then you can also do this on a project by project basis, or we can apply it to all projects. When you're done, just click save. It'll save your changes. And then on the right-hand side of our project, we have the project details. So this is our status, the location, client information. We have our project chat, collaborators. So what managers do I have on the project, team members and subcontractors, our client dashboard, and then any project tags. I will go to our estimate page so we can begin looking at what our estimates look like. So as you can see, this estimate I have already invoiced. It will show that status for you automatically. You do not have to do anything to change the status. You just create that as an invoice, or if the client paid, it would show that it's paid. So that status automatically updates. This right-hand side is just going to show you the total estimated costs of all of the estimates on the page. And then a few different ways that you can begin creating your estimate. If you click on the new estimate dropdown, we can create our estimate with AI. We can create our estimate from scratch. So that just gives us a blank estimate. We can upload a file, a PDF file. It does not make it editable. You essentially just plug in a dollar amount. You can still get that client signature. Using these other options will make it so that you can edit it, and then you can use it in like the budget feature. We can create the invoice from it, all of that good stuff. And then you also have the ability to create from a template. So we can save our estimates as templates, and then we can use them across projects. You can have templates for any type of project that, of course, you can use as your base and then customize. I will create an estimate from scratch with the AI. Oh my gosh, if I can type. The AI tool will pull the pricing from the project address. If you don't have a project address listed, then it is going to pull from the business address. But AI will basically gather information from the web to create this estimate for me based on my prompt. And then once it adds its final touches, it will go ahead and create this beautifully built out estimate that we can then go and edit if needed. One thing to note as well, so with AI and any sort of AI tool, the more that it's used, the more that it gets trained. You can also give feedback. If this is a great estimate, definitely give us that feedback. If it's not and there's things that could be improved, give us that feedback as well. You'll get a text box where you can just let us know what happened. Again, that will help train the AI tool so that it is improved in the future. On an estimate, when we look at this, we're going to have our general information, which is our company name, client name. This typically will default to the name of the project, but you can always rename this. The date will default to the date created. You can also opt to show the date sent or hide this. And then you can set a due date for the estimate as well. So like if we need to make sure that the client is approving it by a specific date, we can set that due date. This estimate number will auto create. And then this just shows you whether or not the document syncs to QuickBooks Online. So just a quick way to know if you are connected. I'm not connected, so it's prompting me to connect. I can sync my estimate to the budget from this view. And then this again is just going to show me that document status. As we scroll down to our item section, here is the estimate that Automate built out for me. So it's going to give me my quantity type and then the cost. If I scroll over to the right, I have my markup that I can add as well. I have not yet added that. And then you might see this processing fee markup. This will only show if we have our online payment settings set so that the processing fee is embedded in our markup. So just something to call out here. I know that there's 2 markup columns. I want to make sure that this isn't confusing to anyone that's looking at this. With the markup column, we can set a default. So I don't currently have a markup on this estimate, but I want to go ahead and set my default value. Once I click save, every single line item will have that markup that will automatically be calculated into this total column. Another thing to point out with estimates, so we have a lot of columns here. Of course, us as the business owner, we need to make sure that we're inputting all of our costs, markups, everything correctly. The little eyeball with the line through it, this means that only we can see this. The client will not see this in their view. You can adjust that by showing it to the client through these ellipses on each column. We can also do that in the preview view, which we will get to in just a few moments.
We did have a few questions come through, so I thought before we moved on, we could get to those. First question, is there a feature to build an AI material list?
We don't currently have a feature to build an AI material list. You can use AI to build assemblies. So you could build a material list for your assembly, but you could use Automate to build the estimate, which would essentially have the materials needed for the project based on your AI prompt.
Great, thank you. And then we have a few questions here. With the AI, when you were building the estimate with AI, we had a question about or asking for more information about the project address. And so if you could maybe just talk about that a little bit, how AI uses that.
Yeah, so based on the project address, it's really going to pull off of the zip code. It will give you like the average pricing of like this kitchen demolition and of all of these items based on this zip code. This is in Palo Alto, so that's Northern California. Maybe down here in Southern California, our pricing is a little bit different. So it'll be specific to the project address. If I don't have a project address here, maybe I didn't add the client yet or didn't add their address and I'm creating that AI estimate, it should default to your company address when it's pulling that pricing. Something else to keep in mind, it is average pricing. So maybe your client is a little bit more high end, or maybe your client is looking for something a little bit more low end and the pricing doesn't seem exact, it is an average, but we can always go in here and adjust the costs as needed. Just click into these boxes and then we can go ahead and adjust. Like, let's say this is $5 per square foot. I can adjust that manually and then it will adjust on my estimate.
Great. And let's see. We had someone asking, I think you went through tags, and if you could give an example of useful tags. And if needed, we could say that towards the end, but if it makes sense now.
Yeah, we can definitely circle back to tags just because we don't have tags on estimates. It'd be on the project level. But we can definitely circle back to that at the end during our Q&A.
Okay, perfect. And we did have another question, then I'll let you continue. Where does it pull the zip code address pricing? Like, where's the data sourced for the average pricing?
The average pricing catalog?
Yeah, so when AI, it's pulling average pricing from the project address, like, do we know where?
AI scrubs from like the web. So just like the World Wide Web.
Okay.
That's how the AI tools kind of work. And it will be true for the average price catalog as well. That is using like AI to just kind of pull the data from like the entire US to have that average price on there.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions before I move on?
We have a few more, but I'll let you continue and then we'll get to the rest of them.
No worries. That's what we're here for. So I love the questions. On the item list too, just a few things that I do want to call out. Adding a section. So demolition, electrical, plumbing, these are all sections on my estimate. I can add a new section just by clicking add section. So that would just basically add a generic one that I can go ahead and add items to. I can create assemblies directly from my estimate. So maybe a great example of an assembly is like a door. I need the pre-hung door. I need my hinges. I need my knobs, all of that. So I can create an assembly for that. And then it would just have the door as my line item. This is just a little undo button and a redo button. So if ever you did something and you're like, oh no, no worries. So you have that undo button. This is going to be our line spacing. So we can change the line spacing of our estimate. And then this column or this option here, this is our customize column button. A lot of people don't know where to find this. I know it's just kind of these lines with the squares on it. If ever, again, you see this anywhere in Houzz, it's so that we can customize the view. When you click on this, this will show you all of the columns that we have that we can turn on or off on the estimate. Just again, another reminder, this is just for our viewing. This is not based on like what the client would see. So if we need to see certain columns that the client does not need to see, we can turn them on here and still hide them from the client. Collapse all is just going to collapse everything within each of these sections. And then here's where we can view by section. We can view by category. Category will pull from our item list, or we can just view by none and just have every single line item here. We do have our create option here as well, so we can create a new item or an assembly, a few different click paths there. And then on the items themselves, so AI creates this description for me. Maybe I want to go in and edit it. If I just click on the description, now I can come in here and make any edits that I need. Once I go ahead and click save, it'll just save those changes to that line item. We can ask Automate to add us additional items to our estimate just by clicking on our Automate button again, and we can type in exactly what we're looking for, click Update, and then it will add. We also have our item list. So this item list we have built out, or I have built out in my account. And if I scroll down, this will just show me everything that I have added in my list that I can add to my estimate. Sometimes you have an extensive list. We now have a filter option. You can filter by room, status, vendor, category. So if we're only looking for something particular, we don't want to keep scrolling, you can filter. And then again, you can customize the grouping or the way that it's sorted. It will default to newest to oldest. So if we want to customize what we're seeing, you do have that option here. And then again, as we pop out my items, you have another create option, so we can create our item or our assembly from this flow here. Any questions on the my item list before I get into our catalogs?
Yes, we do have some estimate related questions. A couple questions on markup. Is there ability to apply markup to the entire document, or does it have to be line by line?
So the markup right now will show as line by line, but if you have a set markup for the whole document, you would be able to set that default value. So just click on the ellipses on that markup line, click set default value, enter that value, and then once you click save, it'll apply to each line item. If you just have like a set dollar amount as your markup, you could add it to the document just as a line item. One thing to note though is that you can't hide specific line items. So if it's a markup that we don't want the client to see, you're going to want to be using this column here.
Great. And then in regards to the columns, we had questions on why it shows the labor column. Sometimes it doesn't. Those are all customizable, right?
Yes. So if it's basically showing like a material or labor column, you have your account set up a little bit differently than I do. Just to actually segue from the estimate real quickly to show you where to set that up. If you hover over your settings gear and then we go into business documents, if you go over to accounting, so I have my customized cost types on. This basically will tell you that I can assign it as a material and labor combined, labor, service, product, expense. Predefined material and labor columns will give you a column that is labeled material and then a separate column that is labeled labor. That was a mouthful. But that is the way that you would set that. So if yours looks a little bit different than mine, it's likely that you have this predefined material and labor cost column turned on.
Great. And then we did have a Canadian user ask, is this available for Canada as well?
Yes. So the estimates, the AI, all of that would be available for Canada. The one difference would be the Home Depot catalog, which we will be getting into in just a moment.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. Cool. So just kind of on that note, that was a perfect segue. We'll go into our brand catalogs. So here we will have the Home Depot catalog. And then we also have our average pricing catalog, which we talked about a little bit earlier. With the Home Depot catalog, you can log into your Pro Extra account and then you can assign whatever store is your home store. This will give you your Pro Extra pricing. And then you can go and search different options in the Home Depot catalog. This is a kitchen remodel. Maybe I need a kitchen cabinet. And then I can go ahead and source items directly from Home Depot and add these to my estimate with either the Home Depot pricing or my Pro Extra pricing. Just a simple click of the button, and then it will add to the estimate for you. And then again, we have our filter option if we need to search on the catalog. And then you have your search bar here as well. We also have the average price catalog. So again, this is going to be just a nationwide average. What you will find is that it's going to give you a low end average, a middle end average, and then a higher end average. So if I go to, let's say, countertops, this is where you'll see kind of that average spread. And then you can toggle over, select whichever option you want to add. Once you click add, it will add that price with that material that we've selected or item that we've selected to the estimate. Any questions on brand catalogs?
Let's see. Are there plans to add additional brands?
Hopefully, I assume that that would be what's in store. Home Depot is our first partnership, but hopefully in the future.
Great. We did have some questions on assemblies. So maybe if I don't know if you're covering that during the webinar, but maybe we can touch on that towards the end if not.
Yes, yeah, we can definitely touch on that towards the end.
Great.
Cool. Templates. So I know we briefly touched on templates prior to jumping into the estimate. This will be a list of all of the templates that you have in your account, and you can either add every single item from this template to your document, or if you just have a specific item on here that you want to add, you can simply click this plus button. There's an add all button at the top. So if you click that, it will add every single item and the exact way that it's categorized on the template. And then similar to that, we've now added the recent estimate button, which is so great if you've created an estimate and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to add that item that I added to estimate 10409 to this estimate. You can always click in and then add an item to this current estimate from our previous estimates. Any questions on adding items to an estimate?
Let's see. Nope, we don't have any questions on adding items.
Cool. Before I move down to the whole payment schedule, just another call out, these 6 dots here, anytime you see them in Houzz Pro, we can simply drag and drop items so we can reorganize them. Maybe I even want this whole section to move. I can drag and drop, and then it will place the sections or items wherever I want them to go. So just another call out there. Here we have our total field. You will see this markup column or markup line. Because our markup column is hidden, no worries. When we send this to the client, markup will be absorbed into the subtotal. Just because we are in the business view, it is going to give us that breakdown because we need to have that visibility. And then if you have your online payments set up with Houzz, which we will get into how to set those up a little bit later, you can set your processing fee. So if you add it to your overall markup, that's when we're going to get this processing fee markup column. You can have the client pay the processing fee, or if you want to pay it and just have it deducted from the payment that you receive, you have the ability to set this as well. You can do it on the document level. When you set up online payments, you're able to do it on the company-wide level, and then we can even do it on the project level as well. Scrolling down to our payment section, we can set our payment schedule. If we want to add an additional payment item, click schedule a payment, and then it will create this for us. Maybe I want this one to be 50%. And then I want this to be 50% as well. So I'll just adjust this. I can set different due dates on my payment schedule. I can rename this as well. And you can set as many payment schedule line items as you need. One thing that I do want to note with the payment schedule, if you plan to progressively invoice, sometimes if your payment schedule is not the exact dollar amount of the progressive invoice that you're creating, it can throw off the payment schedule. So if you do plan to use the progressive invoice feature, it is best to not have that payment schedule, and then you'd have the payments on each invoice that you have progressively invoiced. And then if you want to set a payment schedule as a default so that it applies to your documents, click Save as Default, and it will save that for you. Any questions on the payment schedule or payment section before I move on?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Files, I can attach files to my estimate. I can either upload from my local drive or I can upload from a Google Drive. We do have that Google Drive integration. And then we have our terms and conditions section. You can type in your terms and conditions. You can even create your own templates. So here's one that I have. I'll go ahead and add that in. And then if I want to save this as a default, just click that Save as Default button. Again, our little eyeball is showing up. So this is visible to my client. If I click the eyeball to hide it, it will only be visible to me on this document, not to the client. And you'll see the eyeball, the 6 dots, all of that is all consistent through Houzz. It's what makes it so nice and easy to use, is that consistency. The memo here just gives you an additional field. If, let's say, you want to add a scope of work, you can always click in where it says memo and label this scope of work. Again, you can create templates in here as well. One question that I get a lot is I like to have kind of a pre-header before I go into the items on my estimate. Again, with these 6 dots, we can rearrange the order of our estimate if we want that scope of work to be above our items. You can absolutely customize the way that this estimate flows. And then all the way down at the bottom, we have our signature field. So I want to require my client to approve with an e-signature. This is turned on and ready to go. And then we have our activity stream. So as I send it to the client, it will show the date that I've sent it. As the client views it and pays it, it will have that activity stream there. This is also important too. If you have different team members that maybe are creating the estimate or sending it, it will let you know who sent that, who created it, based on the team member login. Any questions on terms and conditions, memo, signatures?
No questions so far.
Cool. Before we go to preview the estimate to send it to our client, just a few things that I want to look at with you. This actions drop down. So you can manually approve for a client. You can manually decline. Maybe you're there with the client and you just want to do it with the click of a button. You have that ability here. Approve per line item. This will essentially just turn on like a check mark or an X box on each line item where the client can either approve or decline per line item. And then we can create our invoice, our change order, our purchase orders from this drop down as well. Duplicate and edit. Let's say that I want to leave this estimate as is, but maybe make an option 2. I can duplicate this to this project. I can also duplicate this to another project or lead. So maybe another client has a very similar project. I don't want to have to go and recreate this. I can just click duplicate to another project or lead, create that lead or project, or I can add it to an existing lead or project. There's the pay online button here. So we have that click path in a few different places. If I want to publish it to the client dashboard, I have this option here. Once you do send it, because it's been sent to the client, it will auto publish to the dashboard. But if you want to manually do it, you do have that ability. I can download this as a PDF, export it to Excel, print it, merge estimate. So if you have multiple estimates on this project, they're all in draft, you can actually merge them to combine them into just one estimate. This will just give you a list of any estimates available to merge. If you click on the checkbox and then click merge, it will merge the two together. You can download tear sheets and then you can archive an estimate. Maybe this is no longer valid. We have a new one. You can also delete. Again, just want to reiterate, if you delete it, it's gone and we cannot retrieve it. So I would use this button very carefully. There is a pop-up if you go to delete it. So it's not something that you would accidentally click and it's just gone. You do have a few different clicks before that happens, but just want to call that out because I've seen it happen to a few of my accounts and they spent all this time and then lost their estimate. Here's a chat feature. So it's a client chat feature. If you want to chat with your client, you can also chat with your team on this document. And then we have our automations that we can set up. So if I click edit, I can set up that the invoice is shared with the clients once it's been approved, or I can just keep it in draft. I can also create a task once the estimate is overdue. Client reminders. So if I've sent the estimate, client hasn't viewed or approved it, I can have the system automatically send a reminder. I can set the date range after sending it, and then I can also customize this message. Same thing with the estimate being overdue. So before or after, set that due date, and then payment overdue, same thing, date range, and then whether or not it's before or after the payment is overdue. And then thank you message, I can customize my thank you message to use my company verbiage so that once a client approves an estimate, I send them a nice thank you message. Click save, and then it will save our automations. This is a download button, so if I want to download it as a PDF, here I can copy the link so I can see what the client sees. If I want to just share the link with them outside of Houzz, this is that clickable link. Again, another create invoice button. And then we have our preview button. I always recommend to preview your estimate before you send it to your client. You just want to make sure that everything looks correct. The columns that you want hidden are hidden. It's just kind of that double check to make sure that what we're sending them is exactly what we want them to see. You can customize what the client sees on this right-hand side here. So you'll notice these are the columns that we had on our edit view that I'm not showing to the client. I don't have images, so maybe I want to uncheck images, and now my images will be removed. And then my totals column, this is this column here. Do I want this to show or not? You can now turn that off or on. This is new. I know that we've gotten a lot of questions about that. So you now have that ability, which is super exciting. This Pay Now QR code on PDF. So if we're downloading that PDF and we don't want the Pay Now QR code, we can turn it off. If we want it because we want the client to pay online, there is a QR code they can scan and make payment seamlessly. And then here's just our approval section. Again, we have that electronic signature. If we want to approve by line item, we have that ability as well. When we've reviewed everything, we're ready to send this to the client. We click the send button. You can send via email and text. You can also attach a PDF if you prefer to do it that way, but there is going to be a clickable button for them to see the estimate that we're sending to them. Once you click send, they will receive it in their inbox. And then I don't have a way to demo what that looks like on this call, but I will show you the client view of the estimate with that shareable link. Again, this looks pretty similar to what we had on the preview screen. I have my online payments turned on. So here is that online payment option here. I have credit card and ACH turned on. Because they have not yet approved it and I require an approval, they cannot yet pay. So they do have to either scroll down to the bottom, they can click and sign here, or they can approve and sign. Once they click save, this is now approved, good to go, and then they can go ahead and make payment if needed. Any questions on sending to the client, customizing their view?
Yeah, we did have a couple of questions. We had a question in regards to requesting a deposit from the client. Where does that get recorded? Is that a retainer and deposit?
So if you're requesting a deposit on the estimate and they're making payment on the estimate, it will get recorded on the estimate directly if they paid online. You can also manually log the payment if they paid you outside of Houzz. Retainers are a little bit different, and I do believe that we get into retainers in one of our sessions later this week. If you're taking payment before there is an estimate, you can add it as a retainer on the project and then log the payment from that retainer on the estimate or the invoice.
Great. And then can you hide the price for some line items?
You cannot hide the price for some line items and not the others. There's not a great way to do that currently. The only thing that you could do would be to create an assembly and just have like a parent item, but you would hide all of the items underneath it. Let me actually go into this estimate because there is an assembly in here just to show you guys what it looks like. I know we had some questions on the assembly. So here is my drywall assembly here. The client is only going to see this drywall line item. They won't see every other item that's within the assembly. Again, notated by that eyeball with the line through it. But there's, again, not a way to show this line item and not show this line item. It's either going to be all or nothing with the assembly.
Great.
Any other
questions?
Okay, cool.
We're good.
Awesome. Then we can go ahead and move on. We're going to move on to one of our newer features, which is bid management. I would love everyone just like type in the chat. Has anyone used the bid management feature? And if you haven't, hopefully we can get you excited and using it because it is a really, really great tool. In my project, you're going to see bids. So if I click on bids, this will take me to my bid section where I can create bid requests to send to my subcontractors. This is one that I already have released because I did award the bid, but we will go into the draft bid also so we can see what that looks like. So you can see for my electrical bid, I did send it out to 2 different electrical companies. This request was declined. This bid was awarded. Again, this just keeps track of who did we send these bid requests to, who came back, who did we award the bid to. It just really keeps that paper trail for you and it keeps it all organized on the project level. To look at the awarded bid, just to show you again what this looks like. So it shows me the bid was awarded, what the bid was for, what the date was, and then all of the bid information here, pricing, and then any notes that I added in. I'm going to go back to our bids and we can look at a draft bid so we can see what our view is before this goes to our subcontractors. And again, to create the bid request, just click Create Bid Request. But I do have a draft one created and ready to go for us here. This is for a plumbing bid. So again, I can always change the title here. This is going to be my company information. And then here is the bid information. This is the due date. Do I want to send them a reminder prior to the due date? I do. So I'm going to check that checkbox. I've added in the trade. Project address. One thing to note here, we can hide this from the sub or we can show that. Maybe we don't want them to see the project address prior to them being awarded the bid and working on the project. So you do have the ability to hide this here. I can input my estimated project start date. And then here I can add in my scope of work for this bid. I can attach any files here. And then when I'm ready, I can send this bid request. These are subcontractors that I already have added in my account. If I don't have a subcontractor yet added, there is an easy click path here. I just click Add Subcontractors, type in their email, company name, phone number, their name, and then I can add their trades. Trades will just help to keep me organized when I'm looking at my subcontractor list if I'm sending bids or trying to add someone to a project. I will add my 2 plumbing contractors in here, and then I'll go ahead and click Continue. I will send them this bid request. They will get it via email. Once they respond, I'll get notified, and then I can go ahead and either award the bid or I can go ahead and decline the bid. I don't believe that my subcontractors in my demo account have valid email addresses, so that is most likely why I got that error message, but I'm sure that your subcontractors will have valid email addresses, so that will go to them via email. Any questions on bids before we move on?
We do not have any. Oh, hold on. One question just came in. Let's see. Can we have multiple contacts at subcontractors, office staff, salesperson, site, etc.?
Right now, I believe that it is just one email address and one phone number. I know that I have personally submitted feedback for this on behalf of my accounts. We can definitely submit that as feedback to have like multiple contacts under the same subcontractor.
Great. And that's it on questions for right now.
Cool. I will pop back into our project because we are going to go into takeoffs. So if I click on takeoffs, this is where all of my takeoffs for this specific project will live. I already have one in here, so I'll click into this so we can look at it, look at a built out one. But if I need to upload plans, if I haven't yet uploaded plans or I just need to add additional plans, I can click upload plans. Same thing as before with the files, we can upload from our local device, or I can upload from my Google Drive as long as I have my Google Drive integrated. Once I have that file selected, I can create and continue. Another call out here, if I added my files to the project, maybe I added them during the lead phase, I got the plans from the client. You can also add documents that you already have uploaded to the project to the takeoff to complete the takeoff. But we will pop in to our takeoff that we have. So a few things to note with the takeoff. Whenever you are beginning a takeoff, you want to make sure that you're setting that page scale. If you click on page scale, you can either manually, or I guess set it to one of these preset options. If you don't know the scale, or maybe it's not within one of those options, we can find the scale. And I do apologize. It looks like my internet does not want to cooperate today. It's been a little laggy, so my apologies while this loads. While that's loading, we can go through some of the page settings. So the line width, this is going to be the line width when you are drawing the length perimeter of a room. So just how thick that line appears on the takeoff. This you cannot change after the line has been created. So you just want to make sure that this is set to your preference prior to creating those measurements. That being said, page scale, let's say that I got to my takeoff and I started taking my measurements and completely forgot to set my page scale. No worries at all. If you've already taken measurements and then go back and reset the page scale, any measurements you have will auto adjust to that new scale. And then it just looks like we're having a little difficulty here. Let me try to refresh my page. Hopefully we can get this going. If not, we can try to upload a new plan. Here you have imperial or metric, so you can set the measurement type, and then our fine scale option, which I would love to show you once my takeoff wants to load. And then on your page settings here as well. So sometimes you have a plan that's multiple pages. You do have options to pin the page. So what a pin page will do is show it under your pin list. So maybe we have 20 pages of our plans, but we're only doing a takeoff on a few of them. And I just want those pin pages. Again, just makes it easy to access. And then you can also rename the pages, just helps to keep you organized. We can clone a page with or without measurements. Let's see if it, okay, there we go. It's working on my cloned page. So I guess we'll work on this for now. And then you can also download a page. So if you just need to download that one specific page, again, you can also delete. If you delete, it just deletes from the takeoff tool. It's of course not going to delete from your computer. So no worries with that delete button, but it will delete from this takeoff. Any questions on the page settings before we move on to creating measurements?
We did have a question about the floor scanner, if it can be used for the plan or for the takeoff, or do they need to be actual plans provided by the homeowner or builder?
So with the takeoff, I mean, typically it is best practice to have the plans from the homeowner or the builder, just because they're like the official plans. With the scan, which we will go into the 3D floor planner tomorrow, and I'm sure that we will discuss the 3D scan. With LiDAR and any type of scanning feature, there is a small margin of error. So that's just something to keep in mind. But again, tomorrow, when we go into the 3D floor planner, I'm sure that Julia will review the new feature where you can create estimates from the floor planner. So it will bring in your floor area, your wall area, your ceiling area. So you will get some measurements from the 3D floor plan itself. If you have a 3D floor plan created, you can download a PDF of that plan and then upload it to the takeoff as a PDF. One thing important to note, in order to do a takeoff, it does have to be a PDF file. It's not going to work with any other file type. And then let's see. So I guess I'm having problems with my already created takeoff. So we will look at our empty page and then take some. Actually, let me try to clone this with the measurements just so you guys can see what that looks like. Maybe there we go. We have some luck now. Cool. So this is what a done up takeoff can look like. We will go through all of the tools in just a moment. Again, you'll see that I have many different layers, but I can use my eyeball to hide different sections. It just helps the visibility of the plan. I can kind of see different things at different times. So just something to keep in mind when you do have your measurements all created. The rectangle and the polygon, those are going to be the area measurements. Rectangle will be a perfect square or rectangle. Polygon is anything that's abnormally shaped. I can use that polygon tool. It's going to default to an individual measurement, but as you can see on my takeoff, I have this grouped with my categories, my different measurement groups within my categories. That way, when I create my estimate, it is organized and it looks great. I just have to plug in pricing and I can send that to my client. To create a group, you can click New Group. You can name the measurement group. So if I'm doing maybe hardwood flooring, this would be in the flooring category because maybe I have different types of flooring, but I just want to measure the area where I'm doing hardwood flooring right now. I can go ahead and add that category as flooring. So again, it's organized on my measurement draw as well as on the estimate. And then you can assign the color. There's preset colors. If you want to get crazy, you can always set a custom color, which I think is super fun. And then one thing to note, when you add it to your favorites, that means that this group and this category will be available in a takeoff on other projects. If I don't click add to favorites, this is only available on this project. That's really great if I want to get like super granular on this project, create groups and categories that are really specific to this project. I can create that here. And then again, adding to favorites, those will be more generic ones that maybe I'd use on other projects. Once you click create, it will create that group for you. With the rectangle, all that you do is click once, just drag. And then once I'm ready, I will release and it will give me this measurement here. I can rename this. I believe this is the breakfast nook. So I can rename that so that I know, okay, the breakfast nook is 80.40 square feet. Any questions on the rectangle tool?
We did have a question on the 3D scanner. Is it working on Android?
There is the point to click on Android, but it's not LiDAR. And again, tomorrow we will focus on the 3D floor planner. So if you guys are attending tomorrow, I'm sure that we will go over all of that. But at this point in time, you can still do a scan. It is just the point to click method. So it's not going to be the LiDAR scan on Android.
Great. That's all we have for right now.
Cool. Awesome. So then polygon tool, as we mentioned, again, this is the area. Maybe I want to use a group that I already have created. So let's see. I have a bunch of hardwood. Maybe I want to do some tile flooring. So I'll select tile. And then with the polygon tool, click once. And then every time that I want to change direction of measurement, I just click my cursor. And then once I have created this full measurement, I will double click and then my measurement will appear in my measurement draw. Again, we can click in and rename this. And then here it is for us. A question I get a lot is, I know that we're using a flooring example, but maybe we need a concrete pour. So I'll actually relabel this concrete. I need to add a depth to my concrete measurement. So if I click on my cube, this is where my dimensions are. So I can add, maybe it's 6-inch depth. It's going to give me the cubic yards, and then this will calculate with that dimension multiplier here. We can do the same thing when we do the length. So when we do our walls, we can calculate that as well. Moving on to the length tool. So again, just one thing to note, when I click to different tools, it's going to default to individual measurements. We just want to make sure that we are in the correct measurement group. That way it's adding correctly on our right-hand side. Again, we can always create our new group, but I do have some wall measurements in here. The way that you're going to use this length tool is the same as the polygon, but it won't take the area. It's just going to take our perimeter. So just click once every time that we switch directions. And then when you're done with that measurement, just double click, and then it will populate that measurement. And we can rename this just so that we keep it organized. Again, we're going to use that dimension cube. I'm going to put a 10-foot wall, then it will calculate the square footage of those walls for me. Any questions, Andy?
Oh, let's see. We have something in the chat. I have had a couple people ask if you will get if this is being recorded. Yes, just so everyone knows this is, and you'll get a copy of the recording after. Do you have a question? What about to measure a roof pitch?
Yeah, so same thing with that. When you're measuring, if you click on the cube, there's the pitch here. So you can do that with the, I believe it's the perimeter. It should give you, there is an option to add in the pitch when you're measuring the roofing. I don't have a roofing plan here, so it's not going to pop up for me, but yes, you can absolutely add that.
Great. I think that's all we have question-wise right now.
Cool. Our deduct tool will just allow us to deduct a specific area, rectangle or polygon, so we use that the same way. Because this is layered, it's not going to know which layer to deduct it from. So you just want to make sure if you do have layers that you're hiding all of the other layers that you don't need to deduct from before you do this deduction. So if I deduct, let's see, do rectangle. Yeah, I think I have too many layers showing, so it's not going to allow me to deduct. I have a lot of layers here. Your count feature. So as you see, we have counts up here for outlets, can lights, switches, lighting sections. So you can create different counts. New count. So same thing here, group name. Maybe I want to count doors. I'm going to put actually interior doors to make this a little bit more specific. So I'm going to have all types of doors on this takeoff. And then you'll set the color and the icon. Create. And then we can go ahead and create that count. And then move this. Basically, whenever you see this plus sign, that means I'm trying to create a measurement on the plan. So if you accidentally did that, click undo, and then the move arrow just allows you to select different items. Maybe I needed to delete a measurement. I can select them with this move arrow. You can annotate the plan. So if I want to create a text box on the plan, I can create this. And then your undo, and then your rotate plan button here. This again will be the measurements. This will only show measurements that I have on this page. There will be a different measurement drop down for each page. So just to kind of keep it a little bit cleaner, if it was for every single page, it would be a long list. One thing to note, when we do create the estimate, it will take the measurements from all pages and combine it into that estimate. So that is where you will get that running list. You can save this to your files. It will save the marked up takeoff to the files and photos section on your project. And then, do we have any questions before I go to the review page to create an estimate?
We do have a couple questions. Let's see, a little bit technical, but let's see. We have, does the paint estimate subtract for doors and windows?
It does not. So with doors and windows, essentially when you're doing the length tool, you could just like click around it. Like I could do the length, there's a door here. So basically I could take this whole measurement, but then leave out the door. But there's not like a perfect way to deduct from that because you would still have paint like above the door frame. So it won't currently calculate for that.
Okay, and then one other question, is the deduct tool what is commonly used for deducting slabs when measuring for just footings?
You could definitely use the deduct tool for that. You could use it if we're looking at maybe like the elevation view of a wall and we want to deduct the window, kind of to your point, you could do it that way. But yeah, you could use the deduct tool to deduct like any measurement. I'll create a clean measurement for you on this page and then we can look and see. Like here's more flooring. Maybe I want to deduct my island. So I can just go ahead and deduct this portion. And then it's going to deduct that from my measurement.
Great. I think we're no more questions right now.
Cool. Review and estimate. So this is where we can go ahead and review the measurements that we just took in one screen. You can download this as an Excel file. So maybe you just want all of this information in Excel. Again, you can save it to your files. This will save to the files and photos on your project. And then here you can create an estimate. So you would create a new estimate. And then this will ask you if you want to combine groups. So we had a few pages on the takeoff. Maybe I have a few of the same hardwood flooring or doors. Do I want that to be combined or do I want it to be broken out by page? Specifically, like if you're doing multiple levels, maybe you'd have like a different page for each floor level. This is kind of where you can determine how you want that to show up on the estimate. Continue. This is just going to pop us right back into the same looking estimate that we looked at previously. And then we can go in and punch in our pricing. The estimate will then calculate it based on the quantity that was taken from the takeoff. Any last questions on takeoff, Sandy?
No, I think we're good.
Cool. We're going to go into our next feature, which is one of our newer features. We released it within the last year. It's one that I'm super excited about. You can now send contracts through Houzz. So you can send contracts to your client. Maybe you want to send it to your subcontractor, to a vendor. You do have the ability to send a contract to one or all three. This is a contract that I already have that's signed. And then whenever you have a signed contract, it will link you to that signed contract. It saves in the files and photos section, but this is a quick link that you have here. When we click the new contract dropdown, we can either create it from scratch. You can upload a contract. It does have to be a PDF file. I believe that if it's a docx file or a doc file, you'll run into issues. The text editor can't quite read it. But what our system will do is take that PDF and turn it into editable text so that you can go in and then customize the contract, customize like the size of the font and the spacing and all that good stuff in that text editor. And then you can also do it from a template. So if we do it from a template, you do have a system template created in your account, and then you can create your own templates. So create. And then once we create the template, the contract from the template, here's where we can select the recipient for this. So subcontractor, this will show me all the contractors I have on the project. Client, I'm going to assign this to the client. And then what I'm able to do, so when I save, or let's say I'm like working on this to save it as a template, this right here is smart text. So this pulls in based on what this is feeding it. So let's say that I want the client's name right here. If I go into my smart text, I will go to client, put in my client's first name. If I'm saving this document that I'm working on as a template, when I open this on a different project, because this is smart text, it will pull the client's name from that project. Same thing here. If I want to put in the project address, I can put that in here as well. And I can kind of go on, so forth and so on. Here you have your text editing options. And then we also have the ability now to insert our logo. Maybe I want to change the orientation of that. I can change the size. So you do have this ability. As we scroll down to the bottom, you will see the signature field. If, let's say, we have maybe a married couple, or I've seen it where it's like a husband and son, they both want to have the ability to sign the contract. They're both in the project together. You can add an additional signature field here. Actions drop down, duplicate and edit, save as template. So same thing with the estimate. We can save those as templates through actions. Publish to client dashboard. Once we send it, it will auto-publish because we've sent it to the client. You can download it as a PDF, print, archive, and then our infamous delete button. If you delete it, it's gone. So just be careful with that one. Here's your comment field. So pretty similar to estimates. Our automations that we can set up, client reminders and thank yous, download, our clickable link, and then our preview button so we can see what the client would see. And then we have our send option where we can send this to our client and they can go ahead and review and sign. Any questions on contracts?
Nope, no questions so far.
Cool. Next, we're going to look at invoicing. So again, one of my favorite things in Houzz is that the documents all function the same. So if you know how to create an estimate, you know how to add your items, customize your columns, you're going to know exactly how to do that in your invoice as well. So we had talked about progressive invoicing. I will show you how we can do that. So if I want to, let's say, create an invoice for every single line item on my document, I'm going to click Create Invoice. I can do this by my remaining balance, or I can do it by a percentage. This will just create, let's say, 50%. So it'll invoice 50% of this entire estimate that I can then send to my client to collect the payment. If you want to invoice progressively by line item, if you select one line item or multiple line items, and you click that Create Invoice button, again, I can invoice all of these line items, the total balance, or by a percentage of these specific line items. I will go ahead and create an invoice. I'm going to invoice the whole thing just so that we can look at that together. Again, it looks the same as the estimate. The really nice thing is if you're creating that invoice from your estimate, you have all of your linked documents here, so you can easily click back and forth between them if you need to reference them. And then same thing here, we have the items, and then we have our payment schedule that we can always adjust if needed. You can add additional items to the invoice if needed. You can adjust pricing. You do still have that edit ability on the invoice. Any questions on creating an invoice, Andy?
Yes. How can you invoice from payment schedule if you want to go by your payment schedule?
We don't have a way right now to invoice from the payment schedule. Essentially what you would do, and I'm going to delete this because I'm sure that I want this deleted, but if I go back to my estimate, I just needed to delete that. So it basically allowed me to create a new invoice from that estimate we were looking at. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back into our approved estimate. So essentially, what you would do is we would have to look at the payment amount. And then when we create our invoice, we would just create it for that exact payment amount. So you can do it by percentage. I know this is a little bit of a trick on the eyes. I can either do 50%, which that's how this payment schedule is worked out, but I can also adjust the dollar amount if needed. So if I need to get like a little bit more granular, or maybe I don't know the exact percentage, I can adjust this and then it will default with the percentage. And then I can go ahead and create it just for that dollar amount. And then it will create for me. Any other questions on invoicing, Andy?
No, we are good.
Okay, cool. So I know that we talked a little bit about payments. You can log payments manually, same way on the invoice as it is on the estimate. So I can select the payment type and log this as needed. If I want to take online payments through Houzz, then I would just need to set up my online payments through my financials tab and then go to online payments here. I have it set up in my demo account. So if you don't have yours set up, it might look a little different. There's a getting started screen. So you would just get started. We do partner with Stripe for our online payments. Once you have this set up, you can choose whether you take credit card or ACH, one or the other, both. And then these are the financing options that you're able to offer to your client through Houzz. If you're changing your online payment settings and you've already had your payments set up, just something to note that we've added recently. If you make this change, it's only going to apply to new projects. If I want this to apply to all of my existing projects, make sure that you click on this checkbox here. That way, every existing project will now have your new online payment settings. Bank details is just going to show me my bank details, my processing fee terminology, so what the client will see. And then processing fee settings here, so I can set my processing fee settings. How do I want that fee to be paid? And then instant payouts here. So you can opt to turn on instant payouts depending on banking institution. Stripe does offer an instant payout option. Do we have any questions on online payments?
I think we're good.
Okay, cool. And then just to quickly review the financing options that you can offer your clients through Houzz. So there is the HELOC loans through Figure. Clients will go directly through Figure for this option. If you have it turned on in your online payment settings and you have this checked on here, when you send them an estimate or an invoice, they will see that option. Again, this is exactly what it looks like. So we just click on that and then they go directly through Figure to secure that HELOC loan. There is also the personal loans by Intuit. So this is the same thing where the client goes directly through Intuit Credit Karma. If you have it turned on in your online payments and you have this checkbox turned on here, they will get this option as well. They can see loan options and secure a loan directly through Intuit Credit Karma. Green Sky is the third financing option that we have. This one is a little bit different. So you as a business would get set up through Green Sky and then offer the financing to the client. So there is this Get Started link. And then this is the Houzz sponsor page. If you have any questions, there is this phone number for Green Sky, and they will ask you for the sponsor number. So it is 1401. It's listed here. They can give you all the details. This is kind of a brief snippet of it, but that would have to be set up through Green Sky in order for you to be able to offer the Green Sky financing to your clients. Any questions before we get into QuickBooks Online?
Let's see. I think we did have a question. No, we are good.
cool. Let me stop sharing my screen so that you can share.
Perfect. Yes. So I am going to talk about our QuickBooks Online integration. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. Okay. Are we seeing? Looks like we are seeing my screen.
Yes.
So, a few key points about our QuickBooks Online integration. And I did notice that we have some Canadian pros in the webinar today. And yes, we do have QuickBooks Online Canada integration. We launched that during the summer. So, some of what I'm showing you is going to look a little bit different for our Canadian pros, but everything essentially functions the same way. So our integration with QuickBooks is just with QuickBooks Online, not QuickBooks Desktop. So the cloud-based version of QuickBooks. And the integration is a one-way sync. So all of the data flows from Houzz Pro to your QuickBooks Online account. Connecting to QuickBooks is very simple. Simply come over here to your Financials tab and click on QuickBooks Online Dashboard. You will see this screen, which has our tutorial video. You can hear me talk for a couple of minutes on how to connect and get set up. And then there's just a few steps, some items, housekeeping items that need to be done before you integrate, such as setting up your sales tax, automated sales tax in QuickBooks, some settings that need to be turned off in QuickBooks to ensure a seamless sync with payments and documents. And then if you would like to turn purchase orders on, if you're on the plus version or advanced version of QuickBooks Online, turning on purchase orders. And we, of course, have little Help Center article links right here if you need further information, but we do cover that in our video. So once you are connected to QuickBooks, you will see this screen, which is your QuickBooks Online dashboard. Before I dive into the dashboard, I first want to show you your settings, your mapping settings. This is very important. If you're new to the integration, you want to make sure as soon as you connect your QuickBooks account that you go here to your QuickBooks Online settings and get all of your mapping done. That's key. So we have our general settings page. So right here, and I'm going to come back to this because I definitely want to dive into the account mapping over here. But you essentially, let's say you've been using Houzz Pro for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and you've not connected to QuickBooks. You can, if you like, adjust this date so that transactions that have already been recorded in Houzz Pro will then push to your QuickBooks account. But before we do anything here, we want to make sure we go through the mapping. It's great to have your accountant privy to this and have your accountant maybe go through this mapping with you if you have a bookkeeper or an accountant. So essentially I'll just briefly go over some of these fields. So we have our payment settings. So whether you're taking payments on estimates or retainer payments, you can choose how these show up in QuickBooks. Whether you're going to count them as income, as an unapplied payment, you would see this in your financial reports as unapplied income until it's applied to an invoice. Or sales receipts essentially means that that retainer payment or estimate payment is going to be counted as a liability in your QuickBooks account. And you can also turn off sync for certain documents if you don't want purchase orders to sync or if you don't want change orders to sync. And then you can also, in QuickBooks, this is specifically for the estimates and invoices in QuickBooks, if you'd like to see your markup split out from the cost of your item, you would see two line items showing the cost of the item and its cost, and then the item and its markup. And then, of course, if you've been using the integration, any changes that you make only impacts future syncs. So nothing is updated retroactively if you are integrated with QuickBooks. Now, our account mapping, this is kind of the nitty-gritty of the integration, and what makes the integration so great is you get to customize how you want everything to land in your QuickBooks account. So of course we have here our deposit accounts. So wherever you're depositing or receiving client payments, whether it's online payments or checks that you're depositing, you would set this maybe to your checking account, undeposited funds. If you use that in QuickBooks, you will see these Houzz default accounts. So it's very, very important to make sure everything gets updated to your own bank account, your own accounts here. The retainer payments I mentioned, you'll want to set this to a liability account right here, which by default is this Houzz Pro retainer deposit account. That is for the estimate and retainer payments. And of course, we have little details right here to kind of, so you don't have to remember every single thing that I'm going over. We have little details here on what these mapping fields mean, as well as Help Center articles and our tutorial, our mapping tutorial video linked up here. You can customize when you're paying vendors. You pay out of your checking account if you're writing checks, and your default card is your Citibank MasterCard. We just rolled out custom mapping, a long requested feature. So you can actually set up, maybe you also pay American Express, but not all of your vendors take American Express. So you can set that here as well. And when you record payment on your purchase order, simply choose the payment method of choice. If you're using Citibank, choose that. If you're using Amex, choose that. And one of the main things that I want to go over, two of the main things, I guess, are our product and service mapping. So this is where we can get very granular reporting in QuickBooks. Essentially, you would set up default accounts. I have the Houzz Pro default set up. This is a sales of product income account in QuickBooks, and this is a cost of goods sold account in QuickBooks. But you can get really granular with your mapping. So you can map out specific categories. I went into my QuickBooks account and I created electrical income and electrical cost of goods sold, and then mapped that category to those accounts. So any item I have in my product catalog that is tied to the electrical category, when I invoice or when I bill a PO, you'll see that in those income and cost of goods sold accounts in QuickBooks on your profit and loss report. We also have mapping by cost codes down here, so you can add custom mapping if you are in fact using cost codes. So that is available as well, and it functions exactly the same. And then we have the same thing for services. Shipping is broken out here. So when you're adding shipping to a line item, you can choose to have it go to its own income and expense accounts in QuickBooks. And then the same thing with your categories, you can break those out here and do your custom mapping. We also have vendor and subcontractor mapping. Let's say you've been using QuickBooks, you're adding a vendor, or you end up with a duplicate in Houzz Pro. You can simply map your Houzz Pro vendor or sub to an existing QuickBooks vendor. And before I go to the dashboard, do we have any questions?
I don't see any questions regarding, so there is one QuickBooks question. Is this a two-way sync, or do we have a two-way sync coming?
No, so this is a one-way sync. So all of your project data, your invoices, estimates, payments, purchase orders, payments to vendors, all of that is managed in Houzz Pro within your project, and then it all syncs to QuickBooks Online. We don't have plans for a two-way sync, but essentially the idea is all project-related transactions, financials, all of that is handled in Houzz Pro, and then it seamlessly pushes over to QuickBooks Online. In QuickBooks, you're handling your overhead, your meals and entertainment, payroll expenses, and all of that. And so let me come over here to the dashboard. So now the dashboard is going to be what shows you all of your transactions, payments, vendor bills, client payments, estimates, all of that. It's going to show you everything and what the sync status is. We have a nice green bar up here showing that everything is updated. If we had any sync issues, maybe I synced an invoice synced over to QuickBooks and my assistant accidentally deleted that invoice. Any errors or issues, you would see a red bar up here with the ability to look at those sync issues and then get details on what the specific issue is and how to fix it. So you'll see here we've got sync complete. Some documents have not synced yet because they're in draft mode. They haven't been approved or paid. Each document, when you create a document, it doesn't just automatically sync over to QuickBooks. Let me jump over here to a proposal. So you can see here, I've got some paid invoice, partially paid estimates. And within each document, so invoices, estimates, and purchase orders, there is a sync indicator. And this will tell me that once this has been approved or marked paid, it will automatically sync with QuickBooks. Or in each of our documents, you can sync the draft version. So you have the option to approve, like with estimates, approve them, mark them paid. Invoices, once they're shared with the client or once they're issued or marked paid, they also sync to QuickBooks. And POs are the same. Once they're marked billed or approved, or you're recording payment on that PO, it will then push over to your QuickBooks account. You can see here, we've also got a draft. So I can come up here, I can mark this as billed, or I can come down here, log a payment, mark it billed. This is where you have the option to choose, we have our payment methods here. So you can choose, maybe I'm paying with the Amex. And then you can create either your vendor bill and your payment in QuickBooks or just your vendor bill. And let's jump over to QuickBooks and just take a quick look. So those of you that use QuickBooks Online may be familiar with this screen. It's your bank feed. The connected bank accounts and credit card accounts, all those transactions, once you connect those to QuickBooks, are downloading real time as they post to your accounts into your QuickBooks. And the idea here is to just make the data entry process simple. So spent money at Lyft, travel, sounds great. That's an overhead transaction that I've not put into Houzz Pro. Got Starbucks. I'm not putting that into my project in Houzz Pro, so I can just categorize it and add it. But you'll see here we have matches. So very, very important when you're integrated with QuickBooks Online is anything that's coming from Houzz Pro. So client payments, the vendor payments, the bill payments, those need to be matched here in your bank feed and never categorized and added. So you can see here, I have a matching payment from the same client. They paid me via Zelle, so I can just match that right here. Same thing, I paid this vendor, my bill payment synced over from Houzz Pro, so I'm going to match that. If for any reason you're not finding a match, it's a Houzz payment, there could be processing fees that were taken out of the money you received at the bank, or maybe a payment wasn't recorded in Houzz Pro, so you need to make sure that that's handled, because you always, my rule of thumb is always to make sure Houzz transactions, the money spent and the money received is matched here in the bank feed. All of the other stuff, the overhead, the like I said, meals and entertainment, payroll, anything that's not Houzz related, you can then categorize and match accordingly. And let's see, I think that's about it for our integration. If you are new to the QuickBooks integration, we do offer a complimentary support call. So if you're thinking about integrating or you have some questions and you've not utilized that complimentary call, for sure, definitely reach out to support and set something up. Have your accountant on is always my rule of thumb. Anyone that's touching QuickBooks, handling the financial side, have them just learn the integration, understand it, and use that call if there's any questions regarding your QuickBooks integration. Do we have any questions?
I'm not seeing, let me actually check the chat. I'm not seeing any questions regarding QuickBooks. I know, Andy, we're a little over time, so I'm not sure if we want to do the Q&A now or how you want to do that.
Yeah, maybe if there's any unanswered questions. I know there was a couple assemblies, and then someone was asking about if you can connect your website to Houzz's CRM. I did see that.
Yeah, so I can definitely answer those questions. So the website connecting with the CRM, if you have a standalone website, you can use the contact form. This is a new feature. So it's kind of like a Google form. You basically will decide what questions you want to show up for the client or potential client to answer. When you set this all up, so you can click create form, this will take you to the page to set up all your questions, all that good stuff. And then there is an embeddable link. So this code here, I'm not a web developer, so I'm not exactly sure how all the coding works. But I do know that you basically copy that HTML code, and then it can be embedded into the site, whether it's you have it through like Wix or whatever kind of web hosting sites, and like WordPress is another. You can embed that in that site. And then on your contact page, once they fill this out, everything will automatically carry over to the CRM.
Great.
We also have a Help Center article on it right down below. Our Help Center is great. We have so many resources, but this basically will walk you through, and it will have screenshots and everything of that process.
Great.
And then the question on assemblies. So if we hover over company and go to my items, this is our item list. I know that there was a question in the chat about the assemblies not working correctly on takeoffs. So one thing that I do want to mention, if you're creating assemblies, so I have a few different assemblies in here, you just want to make sure that the unit type of the assembly matches the unit type of the measurement on the takeoff. So for instance, this drywall assembly, I'm going to measure it by square foot. So I want to make sure that I'm setting that unit correctly. The question was specific to counts. So you do just want to make sure that if it is a count assembly or an assembly that you'd be using with the count tool in takeoffs, there is a count button or a count option in here. I think I might have passed it, but there is a count option where you can set the unit type to count. And then that will make sure that when you're using this in the takeoff, that it will correctly calculate that on your estimate. When creating an assembly, you'll name the assembly. With things like drywall, I know there's like different sizes of drywall and types, so you can make this more granular. And then you'll have your category, your description. And then in your assembly, you can compile all of the components needed for the drywall. You'll put in the quantity of each of the items, the unit of each. The unit won't affect the unit of the assembly, so don't worry about that. This is just for the line item. And then you can put in a unit cost. You can set your markup here if you'd like. You can say whether or not it's taxable. And then this will show you the cost per square foot of this drywall assembly. We do now have Automate, so you can ask Automate to create you an assembly if you need help creating assemblies. You do have that feature. It functions the same as it does on the estimates. And then this is how you create the assembly. I know, for instance, like things like drywall, we have many different drywall sizes or assemblies that we'd need created, but maybe most of this is the same. I don't want to have to like reinvent the wheel. I can click this actions drop down, and then duplicate this assembly. And then I can go in and create my drywall assembly for a different size and maybe input different measurements. Maybe I need more mud or less mud, just depending on the size of the sheet of the drywall. Any other questions on assemblies?
I don't think so.
Okay. I know also just really quickly, we had the question on project tags. So if I go to my all projects page, this is where you can see them on this page directly. So you can add tags. It's just a way that you can kind of organize. It's almost like a hashtag, just like internal kind of lingo. So maybe I want to tag this as a bathroom remodel. So I can add my project tag, just so that I know at quick glance that that's what this project's for. Again, you can really create these however it works for you and your business. Different businesses will have different lingo, but you can create the tags, then you can manage your different tags for the projects. I don't have any created yet, but you would have your list here.
I know we had questions about connecting the contract with the estimate, if that's possible.
So there's not a way right now to connect like the full estimate with the contract. What you can do is with the smart text, you can pull in information from the estimate. Let me go to the project that we were on. Sorry, my internet is just tired for the day, seemingly. Cool. So you can use smart text if you want to add payment information. So the deposit will be, I want to put the deposit amount. If I click smart text, I can go to docs. This will show me every single estimate that I have. But if there's scheduled payments on here, I can pull in that payment information. Ooh. And then I can pull in the payment amount, the terms, due date, if I want to pull everything, and I can just click everything and it will pull all of the details of that payment item in. With the smart text for docs, you do have to do this on a project basis, just because obviously every single project will have a different estimate and estimate number, but you can absolutely pull that information from the different estimates that you have on the project. Any other questions, Andy?
No, I don't think so. If there's anything that didn't get answered, if you think of something after the webinar, by all means, please reach out to our support team. We're there for you to answer questions. QuickBooks Canada, I know. If you have questions about that, also please reach out to support. Like I said, it functions relatively the same, but your access points are a little different for our Canadian pros. And thanks so much, Ryan. So great. So much useful information. We hope everyone got a lot out of this session today.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day. And thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.